My name is Molly Jimmerson, and this is my empathy interview with Jessica Jimmerson. I'll be talking to her about disabilities and asking more questions to help me and the people viewing my website understand better about the topic. So, what is your experience both professionally and personally with the disabled community?
Well, I have been a social worker for, it'll be 20 years in December, actually. I have worked with a variety of individuals. Started out working with teenage girls that were experiencing mental illness, addiction, and the consequences of abuse and neglect. I have worked in the community mental health field for several years with school-age children. And then I kind of moved back into the developmentally disabled community when about 10 years ago I started working in early intervention. So all the way back to birth, working with birth to 3-year-olds who either had a developmental disability or were at risk for a developmental disability. Personally, I have a 7-year-old who is on the autistic spectrum. And I've been parenting that child joyfully for the last 7 years, and also really getting a lot of experience of what it's like to be on the other side of the community, with being a parent and getting to know other parents of children that have disabilities, and really building that community. So I've been on both sides of it.
Absolutely. Having as much experience as you do and having as much knowledge about extensive disabilities as you do you feel like the common individual, just a regular person on the street, knows a lot about disabilities, or do you feel that the information surrounding that topic is less accessible or more taboo, I guess?
I think that people know what they've been exposed to. And so if people have been exposed to very little individuals with disabilities, and I say that very cautiously because the reality is that most people have had experience with many, many people with disabilities that have hidden or invisible disabilities that they don't even realize. But there are so many different levels of access and education. You know, there's a difference between a child who has been raised in a mainstream classroom or educated in a mainstream classroom that has, known one or two individuals, or somebody who has a sibling with a disability that literally lives it day in and day out. I know as a parent of a child with a disability, when you get that diagnosis, it can be extremely difficult to find out accurate information on what to do. You are given this very long list, this to-do list of things that some of them are possible to do right away and some of them are impossible. And you turn to support groups and you learn, and you get bad information and you learn the correct information. But so many people haven't had that experience, and what they know is, they think of individuals with disabilities as being the individual in the wheelchair, or the person walking with a cane, or with a service dog of some sort. So I think that the amount of education that people have greatly varies based on their life experience, but a lot of that is based on what type of access they have.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense. What made you personally decide to pursue a career focused around disabilities?
Oh, gosh. I don't really know that I ever made a conscious choice. It was always a thing that I was driven to, and I was really driven to a love of social work in general. But as it turned out, that has always been focused around individuals with disabilities. Like I said, I started out working with teenage girls in residential placements in in Tennessee, and I didn't know or understand at the time that most of them had some sort of disability. I understand that now. But at the time, I thought I was just doing case management with, individuals that were in need of housing. So I do know that I did consciously make a decision throughout my career to continue to kind of dial back the clock with the individuals that I worked with. I started out working with teenagers, and I felt like, you know what, we got to intervene earlier. And so I, bumped back to school-age children and thought, oh, goodness, we have to intervene much earlier. So I literally went back to birth, to the day they were born, and started working with, premature babies right out of the NICU that had just been born.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where that, I guess, where that came from.
Huh. What would you say, as someone who has clearly a lot of experience and a lot of passion for, this field, to anyone who wants to know more or who wants to learn more, educate themselves more about different types of disabilities?
I think that, it's interesting because my first piece of advice would be stay off of Facebook. But my second piece of advice would be Facebook's probably the best place for you to start getting information. 75% of it will be untrue. But also, where else are you supposed to go? A lot of people have really bad experiences, the people that are even supposed to navigate them through the system and through understanding what resources and information is available to those who have disabilities. Another thing that you can do is, 1 in 4 people has a disability in the United States. So, look around and start to talk to people and find out more on your own from personal experience. It's amazing how much people will share if you genuinely are coming from a place of wanting to learn more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your opinion and your expert take on all this. Thank you so much.
Welcome.